What's up everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today's episode we're going to be working on this Mazda Spec Miata, aka the pop-up headlight car. We're going to be getting the core support welded in and all the filler work completed and getting this thing ready for paint. So stay tuned. We've got all the test fitting done. All the parts are all bolted on, all the gaps and the measurements look good. So the next step is to pull all this stuff back off and start welding on the new core support and the cross member. Alright, so we're going to be repairing this rear bumper and also repairing this quarter panel. The quarter panel is going to consist of getting the metal straight and then basically putting some filler on it. Alright, so on these used parts, they've always got little dings and rock chips and stuff in them, so we get those all sanded out and primed. And we always take off the rock guard. The reason why we strip all the factory rock guard off the bottom edge of these fenders is because they put stickers down here, they put vinyl, and it doesn't stick really well to the textured surface. Plus, to me, it looks better smooth.
So this is how I fix a crack in a plastic bumper. This crack runs all the way to the end, so I've got a pair of vice grips clamped on the end here, trying to hold it in place. Once you access the back side of the bumper, you can scuff it up with some 36 grit sandpaper, and we use a plyo grip bumper repair system. It's an epoxy, and you can use a mesh fiber reinforcement to put back there to help reinforcement the crack. Before I do any of that, I like to drill a hole, an 1/8 inch hole, in the end of the crack, and what that does is help stop the crack from going any further. Since I obviously can't leave these vice grips on the bumper and bolt it back to the car, I've got this little piece of aluminum here that I'm going to use to reinforce the crack so I can take the vice grips off. And what I'm doing is just drilling a couple 1/8 inch holes and putting some 1/8 inch rivets, and that should hold it so I can take the vice grip off. So we've got all the stress cracks sanded out. We've got the crack repaired. Got it reinforced with this little piece of metal here. It's riveted on, and we finished it off with 180. We're going to be putting some filler right here to make it a little bit smoother.
and then we'll be putting some primer on it. Whenever we're using a used hood, there's always a lot of rock chips on the front edge. So we've got all those sanded out, and there was a small ding right here. We've got it repaired, so we'll be putting primer on this also. Alright, so we've got all the parts primed. The car is primed, the fenders, the bumpers, the hood, and the headlight doors are all primed. So we're going to let this dry overnight. What we're going to do now is get it ready to jam by scuffing under the hood, scuffing the core support and the aprons, and getting all that stuff taped up. Alright, so we're ready to jam this thing. It's all scuffed out. The underhood color is going to be a red, since all the engine bay is red from the original color of the car. It is not a shiny, so we're going to use just base coat. I will be putting hardener in the base coat to give it some more durability, and it'll give it a little more sheen, but it will not be clear coated. We're also going to be jamming out the bottom of the hood. Same thing, there's going to be a base coat with hardener in it, no clear coat, so that it all is uniform and matches like it was before the accident.
We're using PPG's chromatic sealer on this one. The mixing ratio is 3 parts sealer, 1 part hardener, and 1 part reducer.
So if you've got sealer on all your parts and you have some left over, you've overmixed, since it's a catalyzed product, it's going to become a puck in the bottom of this cup. So in order to save a little bit on materials, I went ahead and guide coated everything that needed to be guide coated with this global sealer. Now granted, global sealer as a guide coat is pretty expensive, but it was going to waste anyways. The most cost-effective thing is to not over mix, but if you do, try to utilize it in other forms like guide coat. We're going to be putting on 2 to 3 coats of base coat on top of this sealer. 2 coats should do the trick, but a 3rd coat might be necessary for coverage, and we're going to be letting it flash off in between each coat.
We're using PPG's DBC. It's a 1-to-1 product, mixes 1 part reducer, 1 part base coat, and 5% of DCX61.
Alright, so on this hardener, there's a little trick I learned. If you take the cap off like you're supposed to, thread the cap off, pull the lid, pour what you need, you always get a little bit of residue on the threads, and when you put the cap back on, that it dries, it hardens, and it makes this cap almost impossible to get off on the next go around. So if you take your thumbs, push it, pop it loose, you can see there, it just comes off and it's open. Pour what you need out of this, pop this back on, sealed up, good to go. No pain in the butt getting the cap off the next time. Alright, so we're done spraying this. We're going to go eat some lunch, and by the time we get back, it should be dry enough for us to start putting back together.
Don't go to bed angry. Stay awake late and plot your revenge.
Alright, so we came back from lunch. The car is dry. Unfortunately, we're going to have to finish it on the next video because we ran out of time. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, hit that like button. And don't forget to subscribe and comment and share. We'll see you guys on the next video. See ya! Really? Jesus. Shut up! I shouldn't say shut up. Be quiet! Trying to film over here. Action!